Here to present this bill, which would schedule xylazine as a controlled substance in California, preventing its illicit use while creating guardrails for the drug's continued use in veterinary medicine. Xylazine is referred to sometimes as tranq or the zombie drug. It's called the zombie drug because it renders its user unable to stand upright and causes gaping wounds that look a lot like a zombie. Xylazine has tripled the effect of deaths in our region. Interestingly, this bill a year ago it was preventative for California, and now it is no longer preventative for California because xylazine is pretty predominant here as well. Xylazine mixed with fentanyl is one of the current drug cocktails of choice across our country right now. Problematically, xylazine is impervious to Narcan, unlike other opioids, which makes it really difficult in an emergency situation for folks to save an individual who has consumed xylazine. This bill makes xylazine a Schedule III drug. It's the lowest level we can do, but we think it's important because right now it's very easy to get. $6, $20, you can get it online. And that's because xylazine does have an important purpose, but the important purpose is to serve large animals, very, very large animals. It's a sedative for those creatures, and you'll hear a little bit more about that from one of my witnesses today. This bill was part of the Safer California Senate package last year and is one that the governor has called for a number of times. I'm proud to be back in front of you today and have the opportunity to talk about the bill and see if we can move it forward. I think it's critically important that we use every tool we can. You guys know this, you're legislators. No one bill will solve all of our problems. But hopefully, as we weave together all of our ideas and all of our work, we can really start to get at the root of things. There is no part of me that believes that SB 6 will solve the opioid crisis or the deaths of young people in our communities, which you'll hear tragically about as well. But it is my hope that this bill, coupled with things that you are all doing, and we are doing in the Senate too, on behavioral health, on outreach, on addiction and homeless services and outreach to young people, that all of those things combined will make a difference for the betterment of the lives of people in the state of California. With me today, and all of us urging an aye vote on SB 6, are Dr. Grant Miller, who is speaking on behalf of the California Veterinary Medical Association to talk to you about the real use of xylazine. And with me also, I'm very honored to have, is Marika Cole, who is a mom and an advocate for addressing drug-related death. I appreciate you both for being here.
Thank you. Both your witnesses will share 5 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Ashby, and good morning, members of the Assembly Public Safety Committee. As Senator Ashby mentioned, my name is Dr. Grant Miller. I am the Regulatory Director at the California Veterinary Medical Association, but I also happen to be a practicing equine veterinarian of 20 years here in California. And we're very grateful to Senator Ashby for her thoughtful consideration of this bill and her work on this important topic. We believe that SB 6 is a very aggressive measure to move California in the right direction to protect our community from xylazine diversion, but balancing the important access to the drug that we need as veterinarians. So as Senator Ashby mentioned, this drug really has a sole purpose of sedating animals that weigh thousands of pounds. I can take 1 small cc of the drug, which is like 1 milliliter. It would be essentially like if you just dumped your cup into your hand, 1 little drop. And I can take a horse down to its head to the ground within about 2 minutes of giving this drug. I commonly use it, actually. It's probably one of the top 5 or 6 drugs I use on a routine basis to provide really predictable and reliable sedation to my animals, to my patients. And I use it oftentimes if I'm suturing a wound that I need to numb and clean, or if I'm doing dental work on them. They don't voluntarily open their mouths for us. And so this drug really renders them basically incapacitated. It provides incredible pain control and really predictable sedation. But again, it's an extremely powerful drug. and really meant to be used in livestock, in horses, and in some instances for animal control officers to subdue a wild animal through tranquilization in the field. I am very appreciative of your consideration of this bill. We, the veterinarians, feel that we can put this drug under lock and key with great ease. We already have controlled drug protocols that we use for other drugs, and this would be one that we as the profession would be happy to join the lift in keeping it under better control and trying to help avoid any diversion. So I really thank you for your consideration and respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Marika Cole, and I believe that xylazine should be restricted to the access to the general public. By buying this online, it makes it very, very dangerous for people like my son, who was autistic and conserved, that was killed by carfentanil, which is another large animal tranquilizer that is not restricted to the public. So one of the things that we're finding is that by cutting this into fentanyl, xylazine is cheap. It's a way for people to put profit over human beings. And that's what's happening on the streets. A lot of people are being affected by it and dying by it. And the chaos on the streets have to stop. The restriction must happen, because without that, there are going to be more deaths. So we know that it's extremely dangerous. You can go down in San Francisco, Sacramento, Los Angeles, wherever, and you will see people in a zombie-like state. And that's how dangerous it is. They don't know what it is they're getting. Some of them just want, it's highly addictive. So they're looking for something, but nobody deserves to die. Nobody deserves to be introduced to something that's highly illegal, but is for medicinal use for veterinarians. It needs to be restricted. It really does. And a lot of people think that by scheduling these types of chemicals and these drugs, the goal isn't to incarcerate the people that are using it. This is incarcerating, possible incarceration for people who already have to go through the court system to justify why they had it and why they're peddling it and why they're using it, what they're using it for, why they ordered it.
You have 10 seconds.
So it gives law enforcement the tools to stop the drug trafficking. It really does, by scheduling this, by scheduling xylazine.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public in support, please step up to the mic, your organization and your position, please.
Good morning, members. Moira Top here on behalf of San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria, co-sponsor of the measure and strong support.
Ryan Sherman with California Narcotic Officers Association and the other police officer associations listed in the analysis. Thank you.
Good morning. Claire Sullivan on behalf of the City of Bakersfield in support. Thank you.
Max Perry on behalf of the California Police Chief Association in support.
Garrett Hamilton with the California District Attorneys Association in support.
Julie Navarez on behalf of the League of California Cities in support.
Good morning, Danielle Sanchez on behalf of the Chief Probation Officers of California in support.
Hi, Dylan Hoffman on behalf of the City of Beverly Hills in support.
Usha Muchler on behalf of the California State Sheriff's Association in support.
Dylan Lasowski with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department in support.
Thank you. Is there anyone in opposition? Please step up. Ma'am, if I can have you scoot over one seat and we'll have them both sit here. Just right.
America, just
Welcome, and you guys have 5 minutes to share.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Greg Gardner. I'm the California State Director for the Drug Policy Alliance. DPA respectfully opposes this bill. We all want our loved ones and communities to be safe and certainly appreciate the intent of this legislation in attempting to reduce overdose death and reduce suffering. But adding new substances to the Controlled Substances Act and thus criminalizing more substances does not help with that. What it does is add more ways to charge people who have already been struggling with substance use disorder. It will lead to arbitrary, heightened criminalization and sentencing of people who use drugs without reducing the presence of xylazine in the illicit drug supply. We know that this will fall on people who are already suffering the most from addiction and poverty, most of whom do not intend, as was stated previously, to possess xylazine and often do not have information about the specific chemical composition of substances that they possess or consume. Similar efforts to schedule more analogs of fentanyl have only led to the presence of more and increasingly more substances, more potent substances, and have shown no benefit in reducing the presence of fentanyl and similar compounds in the drug supply. We've already seen similar outcomes in states that have moved forward on scheduling xylazine. Florida, which added xylazine to Schedule 1 in 2018, experienced an increase in the prevalence of xylazine in the drug supply and a doubling of overdose fatalities over the next 5 years. We've also heard from academic and addiction medicine experts nationwide who have cautioned against scheduling xylazine and indicated that it will complicate the research process at a time that we need more extensive research on the drug and its impacts. In December 2023, over 150 experts sent a letter to congressional leaders warning that criminalizing xylazine would disrupt needed research and potentially impact medical practices. And I would note that Congress still has not moved forward on scheduling xylazine. There's just no evidence that placing this substance on the CSA will lead to any scientifically observable benefits. There's no scientific process underpinning this conclusion that xylazine should be included in this manner, and scheduling should be based on a scientific process. We have solutions to these problems that increase access to care and maintain public safety, increasing access to community-based drug checking services, expanding naloxone distribution, building a network of peer outreach and street medicine services, improving access to medication treatment, and broadening Good Samaritan laws can all prevent deaths and increase access to services and connections, evidence-based substance use disorder treatment. We need to invest in those health-centered solutions and instead of adding the substance in this manner, even before the federal government has moved to add it. So for all these reasons, we respectfully urge your opposition to this bill.
All right, Chair and members, my name is Aubrey Rodriguez, and I'm a legislative advocate with ACLU California Action. We are in strong opposition to SB 6, which would breathe new life into California's failed war on drugs by addressing a public health crisis through criminalization. Just a couple of weeks ago, June 17th, 2025, marked the 54th anniversary of the infamous war on drugs endeavored by Richard Nixon. It's one of our most racist and expensive policies of the 20th century. The ACLU has consistently maintained that attempts to address the public health problem of drug abuse through criminal law are inappropriate, ineffective, costly, and leads to widespread violations of privacy and other civil liberties. One of the ironies with this proposal is that our existing drug prohibition is largely a thank for xylazine's increasing part of our drug supply. Restricting prescription opioids did not end demand for these opioids. Instead, it just sent people to the underground heroin supply. Crackdowns on heroin led suppliers to produce cheaper, potent, and easily smuggled fentanyl. Harsh fentanyl penalties incentivize fentanyl analogs to flood our markets. When we try to eradicate one drug, a new substance will emerge, and often it is a drug that has unpredictable effects since many users are not aware of what they are or how strong it is. And now, history is once again repeating itself. The ACLU implores every policymaker in this room to learn from our past mistakes and to instead move away from an overly punitive system. We must learn from these failed policies and change our approach, as we have over half a century of data that clearly shows policing people's behavior when concerning these substances only exacerbates the issue it purports to resolve. For these reasons, we urge your no vote and are in strong opposition to SB 6. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else on the public? Opposition, name, organization, position, please.
Danica Rodarma on behalf of Law Defense and Initiate Justice in Opposition. Keon Bliss on behalf of Anti-Police Terror Project in strong opposition.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Daniela Dane on behalf of Legal Services for Prisoners of Children and all of us, there are none opposed.
Melissa Moore for Legal Services for Prisoners with Children, oppose.
Thank you. We'll bring it back to committee. Committee, any comments, questions?
Yes, oh, I don't have a voice, really. I do. Can I? I don't have a voice.
Her voice is gone. She has a comment.
I have a comment. I'll try my best. I have to say that this is hard for me. It's hard for me to really decide which way I want to go on this because I do agree with opposition when it comes to the over-punitive process of this and criminalizing folks that look like me and so many others, the impact that it will have on barriers to research, as we don't know what the research really is as it pertains to humans at this particular time. And so I guess for me, in light of what was passed with Prop 36 and the promises that was made for programs and support services, I don't, at this point, from what I'm hearing, I really see this as a way of increasing the potential of more folks being incarcerated instead of doing treatment. I'm hoping that should this bill continue to move forward, we figure out another way to make sure people get the help that they need. People want help. Putting them in prison or in jail is not the way to help them. This, in my mind, just from what I'm hearing, it doesn't stop overdoses. It's not going to stop a number of things. And so I'm just being candid with all of you that I'm finding this to be very difficult for me to make a decision today. Because of the fact that anyone who knows me, I'm not a fan of criminalizing my community at all. I don't know if there's any way, I'm asking the author, if there's any way to take some of the information that opposition is saying and really, understanding that it's going to be hard for communities of color, but not just community of colors, but those that have addictions. There's addiction for a number of reasons. So what can we do with this bill to get, I guess, to add different types of treatments and just not adding another drug to a list that can truly hurt so many people and actually make some things worse? What can we do to include a way to work with opposition or some way, shape, or form to get this bill where it should be?
Well, I would argue that the bill is in a good spot, but let me just address a couple of the things I think that you're reacting to and responding to, rightfully so. First of all, I wasn't a huge supporter of Prop 36 either for the exact same reasons that you have illustrated. That being said, right now, this drug, as described by the veterinarian who uses it on horses, is not illegal at all. It's not illegal to sell. He could sell it if he wanted to all of you in here. You would die, but he could sell it to you. So the examples that these two have used, and they're both wonderful humans, and I agree with them on many, many things, but they both gave you examples of Schedule I drugs, both in Florida and the drugs that they talked about. And I am not proposing a Schedule I drug, as they both know. I'm scheduling 3, which means you would not go to prison. That's Schedule 3 is the lowest rank. But if we don't schedule it, it's not illegal. It has to be illegal. And here's what I would submit to you. I worked in the public defender's office here in Sacramento County while I was in law school. And I dealt with these type of low-level offenses all the time. And you all and the legislators before us have done an incredible job, and probably your organization's advocating for it. And staff members like Mr. Ironside have been fighting for drug treatment and rehab and care courts for many years. So a person who faces some charge on this, first of all, highly unlikely that this is going to be the only charge they're going to get. Second of all, if they did have this, would make them eligible for all kinds of drug rehab, care court, diversion programs that they otherwise wouldn't be eligible for if there wasn't a drug case involved as well. So I guess what I'm saying to you is I understand the inclination, and there are several people who spoke today, the inclination to say just stop criminalizing drugs. I don't quite agree with that though, because if we can't make it illegal, then we can't really address it. I do agree this is not, it doesn't warrant Schedule 1. It is not like heroin. It is not like some of the things that have been described to you here today. It can, however, kill you. And what's that? It will kill you. And, you know, here's the other thing I would say. We need to make it really clear to people who are dealing this drug that it is not intended for America's son, who's now no longer in our world because of something exactly like this, a veterinary drug cut into fentanyl to make the high last longer. He is gone. We have to do everything in our power to prevent these very dangerous drugs intended for elephants and giraffes and horses and things that weigh 1,000 pounds to not end up in the system of young men in our communities. So I would submit to you that the one person sitting in front of you today as a witness, as you described it, Assemblywoman, that is from a Black and brown community, is the one whose son is deceased as a result of this drug and other drugs like it not being illegal. So I would ask you to strongly consider it, and if you can't do it today, I understand. I'm happy to meet with you after this committee. Should this bill make it out of this committee, I'll face you again on the Assembly floor and would hope that you would really think about it. But I do think the fact that it is Schedule 3 and not Schedule 1 should give you some measure of consideration that it is not intended to incarcerate additional individuals, but rather intended to identify a drug issue, make that drug illegal, and serve the people of our state. Only if the chair allows you to.
Assemblywoman, do you have any more questions?
I did have another response, but is it okay
Please.
for him to respond? Go ahead.
You want the veterinarian to?
Yes.
Assemblymember, thank you. Thank you for the latitude. Assemblymember, a point of clarification. Xylazine is not an addictive drug. Xylazine, meaning that I can give the same dose of xylazine to a horse 100 times and achieve the exact same effect in the horse all 100 times. That's contrary to opioids, which the body becomes addicted. So the mechanism by which an opioid works in the body is that you have to take more and more and more of it to chase that high, right? With xylazine, that's not the case. So it isn't the type of drug that somebody says, I need this, I need more of it to feel the way I want to feel. A rehab is not going to help somebody kick an addiction to xylazine because they don't become addicted to xylazine. Most of the time, xylazine is put into these fentanyl products without them even knowing it. And, you know, the vial, it comes in a 100 cc vial. From our research in the small research that's been done in the fentanyl xylazine combination, a 100 cc vial could kill everybody in this room. Can kill upwards of 50 people. If that's not a drug that should be under lock and key, I don't know what is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that okay?
We good?
Thank you both for talking a little bit more about the bill. And I do want to say that I am truly sorry for your loss. I really am. Truly sorry for your loss. As we continue to move forward in this state, and as voters have voted for 36, it is what it is. I truly ask us, though, as we continue to move forward to push forward legislation, that when we're talking about things such as this, and we want to really help people, you say that this is supposed to help them get rehab, care, court, and diversions. But as we know, the funding is not where it probably should be to help to get that done. We don't have the capacity to get it done. There's a lot of things that come into play to keeping the promise, again, that's being stated here, that if we do this, this could help here. I just need us to do a better job, and me being elected here too, we collectively have to do a better job of making sure that we do keep the promise and provide treatment and get it there so people can get the care that they need. Because I'm tired of having these same conversations when we know that it's going to hurt our people, either way on both sides. No one's winning in this situation. Now, I wish that we can come up with a better way to address this. Your words has been helpful. So I'm still going to process in this moment until he calls for the vote. I'm just not a fan of the way we do things right now as it pertains to servicing our people. And we collectively, y'all, we have to do a better job collectively of getting this right. Thank you for
Thank you.
once again.
Thank you, Ms.
sorry
Assemblywoman.
for your loss.
Assemblymember Harbidian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to appreciate all the efforts from the author, the supporting witnesses, and obviously, ma'am, just echo my colleague from San Diego's comments, gutted by your loss, and appreciate you being here, and it's very powerful to hear from you. And appreciate the opposition. I don't think anyone can disagree with your opinion, and I do think that for us up here, we only have so many tools to try to address these issues, and we want to save lives. I think that's the point of this committee. It's the point of the legislature. And I do think that we have an imperfect system in addressing these issues. And I think that Senator Sharp Collins made a lot of good points. I do think that the author also made some great points in that this is a multi-pronged approach that we need to take. And obviously we need to invest more in behavioral services and addiction services. And this isn't a panacea or a silver bullet, but I do think that we need to do something to curb the supply. And I do think that the supply of this substance is a problem. It's killing people. I do think that the data that we see in Florida and other states, I don't know, maybe the deaths and maybe the negative consequences would have been higher if they hadn't have actually acted on it. I mean, so we have to be careful of saying, well, even after they made it a controlled substance, deaths still went up and use went up. Well, yes, but in the counterfactual that we have no idea what that would be, I have no doubt that use would have still gone up and deaths still would have gone up, right? So we need to be careful as to correlation, causation, and how we use statistics. And to the point about we don't have a scientific basis to make this judgment. I don't know what a scientific basis looks like other than significant amount of deaths and usage are occurring every year. And we see the outcomes of tranq use. You have to amputate, in certain cases, limbs from very few uses of it. That seems pretty scientific to me that this is a very dangerous substance. And to the extent that suppliers and dealers are openly taking advantage of our communities, the same communities that Assemblymember Sharp Collins talked about, it's incumbent on us to do something. And until we decriminalize all drugs and until we fully fund our behavioral health system and drug addiction treatment centers, we need to curb the supply. I don't want to see a bunch of users who actually need the help be incarcerated, put into our criminal justice system. I think that is a negative consequence of this. And I will fully admit that I would love to see a system in which we can just go after dealers, just go after suppliers, and prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law, because they're taking advantage of innocent people and they're making money off of folks. Our witness's son is a good example of it. But we don't have the ability to, unfortunately, do that. I mean, I would call upon our law enforcement partners, many of whom are here. You go into LA County, you go into any major city, open drug dealing on the streets, open drug dealing, whether it's tranq, whether it's fentanyl, whether it's a lot of different substances, and our law enforcement partners are not doing enough to actually arrest dealers, prosecute them, and actually try to curb the supply. So whether it's tranq or any other substance, I would call upon all of us to do more in actually bringing some consequences in funneling illicit drugs into our communities. And I think this is part of that. And so while I do agree that this is tough, I don't think this is a perfect way of addressing the problem. I think we have to do something. Again, I don't think the answer is we just don't do anything. Because until we have a system in which we totally revamp the way that we view drugs, and that would be all drugs are legal, all of them are dispensed from a dispensary or some sort of pharmacy, we're not there. And until we get there, we need to make sure that people actually have some consequences for supplying our communities with very harmful substances just as this. So I will support it today. I'm going to move the bill and appreciate the discussion we had today.
Anyone else? Mr. Lackey.
I think this is really an important discussion, and I think what's kind of getting lost here is the fact that trying to schedule this substance recognizes the misuse of this substance. Whether it leads to incarceration, treatment, that's kind of a different, how it's applied is not prescribed in what you proposed.
That's true.
All you've proposed is that we recognize it as a controlled substance. And I think, how can you argue against that? This is an animal tranquilizer. And this is not an addictive substance. It's used for a different purpose. It's usually not even used by itself. It's usually used as an enhancement to increase the impact, or like a synergistic impact of a substance. And so this should not even be debatable that it should be controlled. And that's all that this bill does. And so I'm clearly happy to support common sense. Thank you. Sure, I'll second the motion.
In a second. So I'll end on this part and I'll have you close, Senator. Things that were brought up as far as law enforcement. So as everybody may know, I was prior law enforcement. And I had a bill a couple years ago where that passed that I wanted to know where Trank was as far as overdoses go. And so making sure that when the autopsies were, that we can actually find out the numbers. Going back to the comment that you made with us weaving all of our laws together, not one will fix it, but together we can all accomplish at least a big chunk of that. Another thing is it's hard to enforce laws when there's a drug out on the streets that I can't enforce. So by doing this will help law enforcement do that. This is something we brought up a couple years ago with Trank. This is something I brought up right here in this room, that we had the opportunity to make that illegal at the time instead of chasing it, always changing and chasing the new drugs that come onto the market. And we're going to continue to do this. There's something that we don't even know of yet that we're going to be talking about in a year or two from now. I look at this just like with any other crimes that we never even thought were going to be on the books that had to do with, like, let's say, internet crimes. 20 plus years ago, we had no idea we even have like an internet crimes or AI, stuff like that. So we need to evolve and we need to address those issues as it goes. And I think that's what this bill does. I'm happy that you brought this forward, and I know there are some concerns from some of our committee members, and rightfully so, but I think they need to understand that the intent that you have with this is with a good heart, making sure that people get the help that they need, and making sure that we continue to keep our public safe. And by doing that, we have to give those tools to law enforcement to do that. And so with that, I'll have you close, but prior to that, the chair has a non-reco on this, and you may close.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you to the opposition and to the members who spoke so eloquently. Everybody who participates in this process makes the bills better and more effective to help achieve the goal we all ultimately want to achieve, which is helping people in California. Assemblymember Harbiddy couldn't be more right. I don't propose to have the one solution. I'm just a senator, just one piece. As Assemblymember Alana said, it's one part of a woven solution. We need our care courts, we need drug programming, we need behavioral services, but we also need to give tools. And I have elected the lowest level of schedule possible for a lethal drug. But don't take it from me, I'm just a senator. I don't have the same experience as the two sitting next to me. I can't imagine the weight of wearing my son's picture around my neck every day and spending my days advocating for fewer drugs to be on the streets, killing other people's kids. I thank America from the bottom of my heart for driving across our city today to come and sit here with us and tell her story. I also thank a veterinarian who probably never in a million years when he went to vet school thought he'd be sitting in a public safety committee in the California State Capitol begging a bunch of legislators to make illegal a drug that he uses regularly because he knows how lethal it is. Don't take my word for it. I'm not an expert. I did not lose my son, and I do not put horses to sleep every day to try to work on them. These two do. And they are imploring you to make xylazine a Schedule III drug to make it illegal in the state of California because it is lethal. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, please take roll.
For item 1, SB 6 by Senator Ashby, the motion is due pass to the Appropriations Committee. Schultz? Alanis?
Aye.
Alanis, aye. Gonzalez? Gonzalez, aye. Haney? Harbedian? Harbedian, aye. Lackey? Lackey, aye. Wen? Wen, aye. Ramos? Ramos, aye. Sharp Collins.
That measure passes. Congratulations.